Disclaimer. Please forgive me now for there may be mispronunciations in this video. As the title describes, this video is about some lesser known sea serpents and monsters that come from Florida. I got most of this information from the Weird Florida book. I hope you enjoy. The Jacksonville Beach Sea Serpent. There is apparently an old newspaper article that dates back to 1891, which tells of a sea serpent. The news stated that bathers ran for high ground when an ugly long-necked sea serpent brought its head out of the water. The sea serpent was described as having a long skinny neck and a dog-like head. That's all the information Weird Florida gives, and I couldn't find anything elsewhere. The New River Inlet Monster. In 1885, there was a ship that moored in the New River Inlet. The anchor snagged on something, so the crew brought the heavy anchor up to find that it hooked a dead serpent-like carcass. The serpent was described as being over 40 feet long and 6 feet wide, with 2 front flippers and a long skinny neck. It was in a bad state of decomposition and was never scientifically studied. Obviously, the cryptozoologists felt like it may have been a dead plesiosaur, but skeptics believed it was a basking shark carcass. The giant octopus from St. Augustine. This case is probably the only one in this video that is more credible. However, the dates when this occurred varied depending on the source, which are mostly books, so let's begin. It was either November 30th, 1896 or in January 1897 when a gigantic mound of flesh washed up on the beach of St. Augustine. 2 boys found it first, a boy named Herbert Coles and Dunham Correter. The flesh was bulbous in shape and rotting. It weighed 5 tons and was 23 feet long and 18 feet wide. Dr. DeWitt Webb, who was a local physician and amateur natural scientist, examined the carcass and at first thought it was the remains of a whale, which is understandable since carcasses of whales wash up on shores regularly. But there appeared to be no skeletal structure, and the mass had several tentacles. He came up with the conclusion that it was a supersized octopus. The biggest octopus at the time recorded was 125 pounds. Webb took several photographs and specimen samples, which were sent to the leading marine biologists. Then Professor A.E. Verrill came into the picture. He was a cephalopod expert at Yale University, and he identified the huge creature as a new type of giant octopus. He would end up writing a paper on this species, describing it as having tentacles reaching 75 feet and a girth of 25 feet. The species is now referred to as Octopus giganteus verrill. The sea serpent with a human face. This incident comes from a memoir written by Emily L. Bell of Fort Pierce. The memoir tells of her time living in Florida between 1875 and 1890. In the pages, she tells of an encounter with a sea serpent. The Bell family went by boat to Jupiter Inlet, and after landing there, struck out on an 8-mile walk along the coast to their destination. Miss Bell claimed that along the way she heard something in the bushes and got her husband's attention, who then investigated. She wrote, "A sea serpent of some description. It was green and black with yellowish mingled color, and we watched it crawl into the sea. It raised its head and looked all around till it turned and a human-like face could be seen. It stood up about 3 or 4 feet. She'd add it was about 30 feet long and the width of a nail keg." They told other people about their sighting and were told that the creature was seen about twice a year and that the Indians, being superstitious, would not kill or capture it. In 1927, another one of these sea creatures was seen, which had some Fort Pierce men grab their guns and chase after it, but by the time they got to the location, the serpent was gone. The St. Johns River Monster. It was in the mid-1950s amongst the river of St. Johns, from Lake Monroe up to Lake George, when a creature is said to look like some kind of prehistoric animal. Most sightings were by boaters who saw the creature submerged in the river, with only its head sticking out of the water. Some witnesses have said they saw the creature eating water hyacinths along the riverbank. One man exclaimed he saw the creature completely out of the water grazing on grass. He stated that It looked like a brontosaurus, but not nearly as large. Another report said that another observer saw a path made by the monster in the bushes along the river. The grass and everything was mashed down where this thing had been eating. Apparently in most accounts, except for the ones I just said, and maybe others, the St. John's River monster fits the description of a manatee. Manatees can grow to 15 feet in length and weigh 1,500 pounds. And though manatees do graze on vegetation, I am not sure if that's what they saw, from what I have read. In some accounts, St. John's River monster is described as being pinkish and resembling a dinosaur called Thesiostosaurus, which lived 65 million years ago. However, this dinosaur, though a plant eater, lived on land. Much can change in 65 million years though. The Pensacola Sea Monster. This monster didn't have a name for me to follow up on, so I just named it after the location it was sighted. It hit press in 1962 and involved 5 scuba divers off of Pensacola. The men were diving from a small motorboat in the Gulf of Mexico within sight of land where there were signs of approaching storm. They were preparing to leave when they heard a heavy splash in the water nearby. They were startled when a creature that looked like a telephone pole topped with a head rose out of the water. It was some kind of animal with a 10-foot-long rigid neck and a head with tiny eyes and a wide open mouth full of teeth. The monster whipped and thrashed before diving under the boat. In one account, the boat overturned, spilling the men in the water. In another, the men jumped overboard when it seemed the monster was going to attack the boat. In the end, the men became separated as the creature whirled and splashed among them. According to the newspaper account, the testimony given to authorities came from the sole survivor. The assumption is that the others were killed in the attack by the monster or drowned. What do you think of these sea serpents? Did you like this video? Want to support this channel and get early access? Feel free to check out my Patreon page where I create content on cryptids, hauntings, alien abductions, serial killers, and much more. Can support me there? Like, comment, and subscribe here.